Hi, my name is Angie, and I'm in my garden today. And today I am going to be presenting on the saw palmetto plant, also known as Serenoa repens. It's one of the most iconic and ecologically important native plants here in Florida. And my goal today is to explain what makes the plant unique, why it matters to the Florida ecosystem, and how humans have used it and also protected it over time. So, what is the salt palmetto? So, it's an evergreen clumping palm that grows really, really low to the ground. It's also known for its fan shaped leaves. So, the leaves are very fanned out and they're also very, very long and sharp and very sawtoothed at the edges, hence the name saw palmetto. It doesn't grow as tall as the other palms we see here in Florida, but it can form huge and dense thickets. And one really fun fact about the plant actually is that they are believed to be extremely long lived. So some believe that like some of the saw palmettos here in Florida, are about several thousand years old. So that's a really fun fact. So the appearance of the plant, it can either be green or it can have like this sort of silver slash blue tint on the leaves, and that's depending on where it grows. So those coastal varieties, on those habitats will tend to have that silver look on them. The plant also grows these really small white flowers, and those flowers do later turn into these dark berries and then ripen to a very black berry. And these berries are actually one of the main reasons why the plant is famous, because so many species rely on them. So it is a very important characteristic that they do have. So the salt palmetto is native to southeastern U.S., but as I've been saying, it is most abundant here in Florida. So if you have lived in Florida, I can guarantee you've seen a salt palmetto multiple times because it is very common here. And it thrives in habitats like pine flatwoods, sand hills, and coastal dunes. What's nice about the plant is that it is very drought tolerant and it is very fire adapted as well. So it allows it to thrive in like harsher environments or those environments that have nutrient poor soils. And also its underground trunk structure does help it regrow quickly after a fire happens. So speaking of fire, it does play a major role on the health of this plant. It not only survives fires, but it does depend on it too to survive. So after any natural burns that we do have here in Florida, it can rapidly resprout, and that helps clear out any old growth, and it also keeps the ecosystems like flatwoods and scrub healthy as well. So without any fire, the plants can also be overshaded by any other larger vegetation going around. So fire is very essential for the survivability of this plant. And then coming right back to the berries that it has, the berries are a critical food source for many animals that live in their habitat. It includes animals like black bears, raccoons, foxes, deer, and also a variety of birds that do eat the berries. And during certain seasons, the berries can also make up a large portion of a bear's diet. And then also smaller mammals and reptiles do use the plants for shelter. So the salt palmetto is almost like a keystone species of plants here in Florida. It is very important. The thickets that the salt palmetto creates does create shelter for a lot of the species, including even the Florida panther, gopher tortoises, certain snakes, and also ground nesting birds. So the dense structures that it creates does help protect animals from predators or storms or extreme heat. So the plant is very important for the ecosystem here. And because the salt palmetto is so common and so widespread, it does help connect certain habitats together, and it does help with the maintenance of biodiversity. So moving on to humans. Humans have used the salt palmetto for centuries. The Seminole and the Miccosukee tribes that we have here in Florida have used its leaf for weaving some baskets, making roofs, and even creating rope. They also did eat a small portion of the berries, so whether it's humans or animals, the berries are very important. And today, the palmetto berries are commonly used in herbal supplements for things like urinary and prostate health as well. But because the plant does have so many benefits, it has a lot of economic value. So it has led to some concerns about over harvesting, which is a problem that we do need to keep in mind and look out for. And so, in modern horticulture, the salt palmetto is valued as a low maintenance native plant. It handles drought really, really well and can work with poor soils and even salt spray, which makes it really good for those coastal landscapes that we have here. It also, as I have explained, supports wildlife in many ways. So it's popular in native and ecological garden designs, and its slow growth does mean it requires very little pruning or care. So it is very nice in terms of conservation and making a good ecological garden. It is definitely a staple to have. And the easiest way to identify the salt palmetto is by its fan-shaped leaves, and then the sharp edges all the way at the top. The plant does grow very low to the ground in clumps, almost looks like a bunch of bushes or sharp shrubs. Um, and it does have a really tall, tall, thick, low stump to the ground. And in coastal areas, you can also look for that silver or bluish leaf color that is common within those habitats. And then you also need to look out for the presence of those dense and sprawling thickets. That is another clue to see if it's a salt palmetto. But once you see it, you will definitely be sure that it is a salt palmetto. They are very recognizable. And even though the palmetto is said to be widespread, it does still face some of its own threats. One of the major issues is that illegal berry harvesting has disrupted some of the wildlife food sources. And also, habitat destruction from the development that we have here in Florida is another concern for it. And with that comes fire suppression. Some natural fires, don't happen or are postponed, and many ecosystems do depend on these natural fires. And right now, we are not doing it at the frequency that we should be doing them for the health of this plant. And also, some Florida counties do now regulate berry harvesting because of the impact that it has had on the ecosystems and also the supplement industry. Since the plant has those medicinal values for prostate and urinary health, a lot of people have been out to seek the plants for its berries, which is not good. It can either produce over harvesting, or it can make the environment very, very scarce from all of the berry picking. And there are some native landscaping programs that also encourage homeowners to plant species like the salt palmetto to support local biodiversity. So I will say that if you are landscaping or looking to put something in your garden or around your house, I will definitely say something like the salt palmetto is a great idea since it is something so valuable that we need here in Florida, and it doesn't just have to be the salt palmetto. It could be any other plant that just helps maintain the ecosystem and the biodiversity that we have here. So to summarize and put it all together, the salt palmetto is a very resistant to fire and ecologically essential native plant here in Florida that we have. As I've said, it supports wildlife, it thrives in very challenging environments, it plays a major role in fire ecology, and it also holds some cultural and economic importance. Cultural, as I've said, how the Native American tribes have used it, and also economic importance, with the urinary and prostate health that it has helped us work with. So, protecting native plants like this does help preserve Florida's natural heritage and the ecosystems that depend on them. Florida has many parts of it where its ecosystems are very fragile, and we also have a lot of development going on down here, with houses and new infrastructure, and I think we should be more mindful of who we vote, to make all of these structures, making sure that we are conscious of our environment, to make sure that important plants like these ones and the ecosystems that they support don't go endangered, so that we can support our beautiful Florida.